Whirlpool's finally woken up. Now for the last 10 years or so, I've watched Speed Queen take this company out behind the shop and just clobber them. Now every week somebody calls me about a washing machine that's 4 years old and needs $400 repair. Every week I've got to tell them the same thing. Whatever Whirlpool's been making is junk anymore. Whirlpool's been losing the commercial grade customer one repair call at a time, and I don't think they even noticed it happening until the numbers got so ugly that somebody had to stand up in a meeting and explain to them. Well, they noticed. Now, Maytag's quietly put 2 spec sheets up on the Whirlpool's dealer training site for a brand new commercial washer and a matching dryer. And the headline on both of them says, and I'm reading straight off the sheet, built to last for 30 years. Now, before I get into it, let me be clear about one thing because it trips people up. Maytag is a Whirlpool brand. Whirlpool bought Maytag back in April of 2006, and they've been building them in the same plants ever since. So when I go back and forth between Whirlpool and Maytag in this video, I'm talking about the same company. Same engineering behind both and a lot of the same parts inside them. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go forward. Now, I've been doing this for a while, and I've heard a lot of promises out of Whirlpool, but I went through both of those sheets line by line, pulled up their 360-degree viewer, and took that machine apart on my screen, one piece at a time, and I'm going to tell you what's actually in there. The good and the part they're hoping you skim past. Now, there's one question everybody's been asking about the machine, and I've got the answer for you. So let's get to it. The washer's Maytag MTW8305T. It comes in white, which is the MTW8305TW, and a color they're calling Midnight Steel, which is MTW8305TF. And there's a matching dryer, which is going to be MED8305T for the electric and MGD8305T for the gas dryer, in those same 2 colors. Now, you can't buy any of this. There's no price, there's no product page on Maytag's own website. Home Depot doesn't have it, Lowe's doesn't have it, AJ Madison doesn't have it, and there isn't a parts house in this country with a single part number for it. I checked all of them. You're going to hear $1,500 for the washer. That's the number that's been going around the trade right now. And I'll tell you in a minute where it comes from, and it may well turn out to be right, but it doesn't come from Maytag. Maytag hasn't published a price on this machine. So take that number for what it's worth and don't go budgeting around for it yet. Now, both spec sheets are stamped preliminary July 26, and the marketing copy on the dealer side isn't even finished. There's a line in there that says the washer handles large bulky loads like 15 or more towels, and I'm quoting the letters right off the page. Double X king size comforters. They haven't filled in the number yet. Now, that's how early this is. The timing makes sense, though. Back in October of last year, Whirlpool announced $300 million in investments in its laundry plants in Ohio for what it's called next generation washers and dryers. Now, Clyde, Ohio has been building washers since 1952. Marion builds the dryers, and that was 400 to 600 new jobs that went in there. And nobody said what the product would be. Well, I'd bet you this is it. And here's the one thing I keep getting asked, and it's the right question to ask. Does it have a real agitator or one of those wash plates? So I went and got the answer. Whirlpool's got a 360-degree viewer on their dealer training site. And it's not just the outside of the machine. It opens the lid, it pulls the panels off, and it takes the whole thing apart piece by piece right there on the screen. And I sat there and I rotated it until I was looking straight down into that tub. And looking straight down into it, it looks short. It looks like a wash plate. A low piece with molded vanes and a raised hub in the middle, and the fabric softener dispenser cup sitting right on top of that hub. Now that's what a lot of folks have been calling it, and I don't blame them, because from the top view that's exactly what it looks like. But I didn't stop at the top down view. I pulled up the side view on the suspension diagram, and from the side it's clear as day. That's an agitator. It stands up taller than it looks from straight above, and the schematic shows it for what it is. And the spec sheet backs that up. Under the line that says agitator slash impeller type, it reads single with FS dispenser. So, and that means single with fabric softener dispenser. That's a single action agitator with a fabric softener dispenser on the top of it. It doesn't have the ratcheting upper section that the old dual action Maytags had, but it's a real agitator standing up in that tub, not a wash plate lying flat in the bottom. So if you've been sitting there hoping Whirlpool brought back a real agitator to go fight Speed Queen with, well, here's your answer. They did. But if you're looking straight down into that tub, it's easy to call it a wash plate. And look at it from the side and it's an agitator. And one other thing, I caught this after I'd already shot the video, so if you hear me call it a wash plate anywhere later on, I was mistaken. It's an agitator. Now, I want to say something before we go on. Ben over at Ben's Appliances and Junk put out a video about this a couple of days ago. He beat me to it. He also got to stand next to this machine at a trade show back in the spring under embargo, and he put his hands on it, which I didn't. So he's got first-hand information that I don't have, and I'm going to use some of it in this video and tell you every time it came from him. Now you go watch his video. He's worth your time to watch. He's got a great channel out there. What he couldn't do, and he says so himself, is get inside that tub or run the machine. So that's where I went, and between the two of us, you're going to get about as complete a picture of this washer as exists right now. Now that $1,500 I mentioned, that's his number from the big box people who showed him the machine. It's not Maytag's. I'll say this in Maytag's defense. Their own copy says the power wash cycle uses deep water and extra agitation. So this thing does move the clothes around rather than just slosh them. So if you're cross-shopping this against the Speed Queen TC5 with the full height agitator and its 210-degree stroke, and I'll tell you the truth, until somebody runs a load of shop racks through one and pulls them back out, none of us is going to know how well it cleans. Not me, not Ben, not anybody. Whoever tells you different this week is guessing. The rest of this machine is the most interesting thing Whirlpool's done with a top loader in 20 years, and I mean that. They're calling it the DuraCore system, and it's two pieces. The first piece is the motor. It's a gearless direct drive, and what that means in plain English is there's no belt, there's no pulley, and there's no transmission. So let me tell you how this thing actually works, because this is where it gets pretty good. On a regular belt drive top loader today, the motor runs both directions. The Gearcase down there does two other jobs. It gears the motor down so the agitator gets more muscle behind it, and it's what switches the machine back and forth between agitating your clothes and spinning them out. And when that Gearcase goes out, that's usually the end of the machine. I don't replace many of them. In fact, I don't replace any anymore because they cost too much. Because by the time you add up the part and the labor, you're better off buying a new washer. And that's what most folks end up doing anyway. And it tends to fail at 4 years on the machine that's been sold to you as a 10-year machine. If you've got a heavy load and a big family. This DuraCore motor doesn't need one. The motor is going to drive that wash plate straight for the wash. It drives the tub straight for the spin, and it handles the switch between the two by itself. There's no Gearcase sitting in there waiting to strip out on you. They took the one part out that kills these machines and removed it completely. That's the whole idea, and if they built it right, that's a big deal. This new one doesn't have any of that. And here's how it does this job instead. There's a big ring of magnets down in the bottom, and they call that the rotor. And it turns around a stationary coil of copper, or more than likely it's aluminum wire, and they call that the stator. And now the shaft comes straight up out of that middle of that into the tub. And to wash your clothes, the control board just reverses the motor. It drives it one direction, stops, drives it back the other way. And it does that over and over for the whole wash. The motor itself is doing the agitating. There's no gears in there translating anything. Then when it comes time to spin, the same motor quits reversing. It runs in one direction, and it takes you have a clutch in there that engages the spin basket, and it will take that spin basket up to 900 RPMs. And that's how they can say that the part count on this machine has been cut in half. Now, Ben counted it up off the schematics that he was showing and put it at about 24 major parts in the whole machine. Looking at the teardown viewer, I believe it. There's not much in there. Now, when I went through that animation, I could see one shaft, but I couldn't see any clutch, and I was sitting there wondering what holds the basket still while the wash plate rocks. Ben answered that one for me, and this is the best thing he brought back from that trade show. He says there's a clutch and a brake assembly in there, and it looks like the old Whirlpool direct drive clutch and brake with friction pads and a spring pack. And he says the schematics he saw suggest the whole assembly comes apart and is rebuildable. If that's right, then Whirlpool went into the parts bin from 1985 and pulled out something that worked. And I couldn't be happier about it. These old clutch and brake assemblies are serviceable. They're cheap and long-lasting, and I rebuilt plenty of them. And I want to point out that I haven't seen it myself, and there's no service manual or parts diagram in existence yet to check it against. That's Ben's eyes, not mine, but he's got no reason to make it up, and it fits what I'm looking at. Now, two more things from Ben that I want you to hear. He says the bearings in this machine is a big automotive style bearing, the kind that you expect to find under a truck rather than under a washing machine. In the teardown viewer, I can see the bearing housing, which is a separate metal casing that bolts into the tub and comes off on its own. So it looks like you'd replace that housing and keep everything else, which is what you want. The other one's not so good, and Ben flagged it as a concern, and I share that. There's a spider bracket in there. We call it the spider arm, and it holds the tub. And if you've ever worked on a front load washer, you know exactly what the spider arm is, and you know what happens to them. It's a cast aluminum piece that sits in the water, and over the years the detergent and water eats it away, and the arms corrode and crack, and when one lets go, it takes the whole machine with it. That's the single most expensive failure on a front load washer. And it looks to me, and Ben said this too, that they took a front load washing machine and just turned it upright. Now Maytag's put one on in a top loader. And I'm not saying it'll fail. Metallurgy's come a long way, and this thing's running a lot cooler and wetter than a front load spider arm does. But it's the one part in that machine that worries me, and I'll be looking hard at it when I get one apart. And that spin number matters more than most people realize. A Speed Queen TC5 will spin up to 710 RPM. The G goes up to 800. The Maytag commercial machine that they're replacing spins at 700. Faster spin means more water is going to come out of your clothes in the washer. And every bit of the water that comes out in the washer is water that your dryer doesn't have to boil off. Now that's real money on your power bill, month after month, for as long as you own the thing. 900 RPM is the highest I've seen on an Agitator top loader. Ben pointed out something about that number that I hadn't thought about, and he's right. Normally when you go to that heavy spring-loaded base, you give up spin speed, and that's the trade-off everybody's lived with. Somehow Maytag's claiming both the heavy suspension and the high spin, and nobody's ever pulled that off before. If they did it, that's the real engineering story in this machine. The second piece is the suspension, the part that made me sit up. On most top loaders built in the last 20 years, the tub hangs from 4 rods. And they have springs at the bottom, and it's held up in the corners of your cabinet by hangers. Your Whirlpools, your Maytags, your G's, LG's, Samsungs, they all hang the tub. And those rods wear out. The linear dampers in them wear out. And when they do, the machine starts banging the side of the cabinet on a spin cycle, and your wife thinks it's coming through the laundry room floor. Now, I've replaced hundreds of them. Now, Speed Queen never did that, and they deserve the credit for it. A TC5 sits on a solid mount. It's got a full steel base, heavy-duty springs, and self-leveling legs in the back. It's a big part of why those machines hold up the way they do, and why I've been sending people to buy them. Well, Whirlpool finally threw the rods out, and this new one sits on a wide cast base underneath the tub with the legs splayed out and the springs down in the base. And if you ever worked on a washer built before 2000, you've seen this. Everybody used to call it the milk stool. The old Whirlpool direct drives built before 2010 had it, and Maytag Dependable Care had it, and it was more reliable than the thing that replaced it. Maytag's calling it the DuraCore base mount suspension, and their copy says it's built lower and wider for a better center of gravity, and that it won't shut the cycle down or bang the cabinet when a load goes out of balance. Now they say that base holds up to 1,900 pounds. So the truth is, Whirlpool didn't invent this. They went and did what Speed Queen's been doing all along. And whatever washer in this country did before somebody decided that hanging a tub was cheaper. I'm glad they did it, but this is catching up. It's not leapfrogging. Now, Ben said that when he moved this machine at the trade show, it felt like an old direct drive from the 90s, not like the tin boxes they build now, and he figured there was a lot of steel or maybe some cast iron in it. He put it at about 30 pounds heavier than the Speed Queen TC5. So I went and I checked that against the paperwork, and Maytag sheet says the gross weight's 227.8 pounds. A TC5 ships at about 196 pounds. Now that's 32 pounds. He called it almost exactly. Now, a heavy washer isn't automatically a good washer, but when the industry spent 20 years taking weight out of these things to save on freight, and somebody puts 32 pounds back in on purpose, that tells you something about what they're trying to build. There's one more thing in there I want you to know about. The drain pump's got a clean out. Maytag's old instructions say you pull the front panel and unscrew the catch with no tools and no technician. On a top load washer, I don't know of another top load washer out there that has that. That's a front loader feature, and on a front loader, it's the difference between a $200 service call and 5 minutes with a bucket. Now, whoever put that in there was thinking about the customer, and I want to give them credit for it. And here's the one thing that made me laugh out loud. Ben says the tub nut on this machine takes a standard TB123 tub nut wrench. And that's the same wrench that's been in my toolbox since I don't know when. And it's the same wrench that's in yours. Whirlpool designed a brand new machine from the ground up in 2026 and used the same tub nut they've used for 50 years. That's either laziness or someone thinking about the man who has to fix it. And I choose to believe it's the second one. Now, real quick, while we're on the subject of fixing these things yourself, if you're the kind of person who'd rather pull the front panel and fix your own washer than pay somebody like me to come do it, I've got repair guides over on Gum Road that walk you through it step by step. Now, there's a QR code up on the screen right now. Point your phone at it and it'll take you right to them. They don't cost much and they're written plain enough that anybody can follow along and get the job done. One of them might save you a whole service call. All right, back to the machine. Now let me get to the tub because somebody's going to ask me, and it's a fair question. The inside basket, the one your clothes right in, is going to be stainless steel. Good. But the outer tub, the big one that holds the water, it's plastic. Maytag says right in their copy that this makes it rust free. Plastic doesn't rust. Now, a Speed Queen TC5 uses a porcelain coated steel outer tub. Now, plastic by itself doesn't bother me, and I don't want it to bother you either. The old Whirlpool direct drives ran plastic outer tubs, and those machines outlived nearly everything built since. Every front loader on the market has a plastic outer tub, and those spin faster and carry heavier loads than this thing ever will. And porcelain over steel does chip, and once it chips, it rusts, and then you've got rust flakes and a load of white towels. So Maytag's not wrong about the rust. Here's the real strike against it though, and it's not the plastic. Speed Queen warranties the stainless basket and the outer tub on the TC5 for the life of the machine. Maytag's 10-year coverage is on the basket and the motor. The outer tub's not on that list. So if that plastic tub cracks in year 7 or the bearing seat wall is out, that's on you. Speed Queen put their money behind their tub. Maytag didn't. That's a checkable difference, and I think it tells you something about how much each one of them really believes in their own claim. All right, built to last 30 years. Big words on the front of a spec sheet. Let's take it apart. On Maytag's own website, it says, and this is the exact wording, engineered for 12,000 cycles, built for 30 years of laundry. So take 12,000 loads and divide it by 30 years, and that's 400 loads a year. Divide that by 52, and you get about 7.7 loads a week. That's the 30 years, 7 or 8 loads a week. Now, if you're 2 people in the house and you do 8 loads a week, wonderful. And they're talking to you. But if you've got 3 kids and a husband who works outside and they're running 15 loads a week, as half my customers actually do, that same engineering claim gets you about 15 years, not 30. It's the same machine, the same test, different household. And I'm not calling anybody a liar. 12,000 cycles is a real engineering target, and it's a good one. I just want you to know how they got the number on their box there. And here's why it's a smart number. You go look at Speed Queen's website. Speed Queen says, in their own words, that they test their machines to 10,400 cycles, or roughly 25 years of life in an average household. So Maytag went out and beat Speed Queen's own claim by about 15% using Speed Queen's own way of counting. That's no accident. And now it was aimed right at the Ripon, Wisconsin. So one thing that did catch my eye, Maytag's commercial laundry division, and that's the outfit that sells to actual laundromats, has been running a drive system under this same DuraCore name for a few years now, and they publish a 15,000 cycle number on it and a 60,000 cycle lab test. Now this new home machine's rated at 12,000. It's the same name on it, lower number, just something that's worth knowing. Now we get to the part that I need you to hear, because this is where the 30 years runs into the paperwork. The warranty is 5 years on all parts and labor, plus another 5 years on limited parts coverage for the basket and the motor. Maytag calls it their best residential warranty, and they put a 10 and a 5 and a big badge on the spec sheet. So read that with me. Years 1 through 5, you're covered on everything, parts and labor to put them in. Now, years 6 through 10, you're covered on 2 things, the basket and the motor. That's it. Your control board's not covered in year 6. Your pump's not covered. Your water valve, your bearing, that plastic outer tub, your suspension, none of it. And I'll tell you, as the man who goes out and fixes these things, the basket and the motor are what I get called about. They never fail. And on a direct drive machine, that rotor and that stator, it's going to run a long, long time. And what kills machines is the control board and the bearings. And both of those fall off the coverage at year 5. Now let me be fair, because fair is the whole point about this channel. 5 years of parts and labor is a good warranty. It matches Speed Queen. Speed Queen gives you 5 years of parts and in-home labor on the TC5 and a lifetime on the basket and the outer tub. Their step-up TR7 goes to 7 years. So Maytag pulled even with the Speed Queen here. They didn't beat them, and if this machine really does sell for around $1,500, which is right where the TC5 kind of sits today, then Maytag's asking Speed Queen's money, and they're matching Speed Queen coverage, and the whole thing comes down to which machine you'd rather have. Now, everybody who's mentioned this machine so far has said there's no information on the dryer. Well, there is. It went up on the same site that day, and I pulled the sheet. It's 7.5 cubic feet, which is a big dryer, stainless steel drum, and the drum turns at 45 RPM. Airflow is 190 cubic feet per minute, and the gas one is a 22,000 BTU burner, and it'll convert. It also can be converted to propane. Now the electric's a 5400 watt element at 240 volts and 30 amps, and I want you to notice that the electric one doesn't come with the cord, so go ahead and order one if you're going to. You get 8 cycles, and 4 of those are just time to dry at 15, 30, 45, and 60 minutes, which I appreciate seeing on a machine in 2026. 4 heating settings, including a no-heat airflow, front lit screen, interior light, window in the door, and it's a hamper door, so it drops down instead of swinging sideways. And they're putting their moisture sensor system on it too, and they call it the IntelliDry. And they say the motor's reinforced with commercial grade parts. There's a Pet Pro option, a steam option, and a wrinkle prevention option. And there's one odd thing, the dryer's ADA compliant, but the washing machine's not. It's the same pair, same size. One is and one isn't, and I don't have any explanation for you on that yet. Vented up to 64 feet if you need to. Now that's impressive and important for those of you who have a long vent run on a laundry room or an interior wall. It has a 4-inch duct that's standard, and it'll go out the left, the right, the bottom, or the back side of that machine. All right, now here's where I come down, and then I want to hear from you in the comments. The design's right. I've wanted somebody to throw those suspension rods in the garbage for 15 years, and Whirlpool finally did it. Getting rid of the belt and the gear case is a great idea. Rebuildable clutch and the brake is a gift, and a pump cleanout you can reach without tools is another one. 900 RPM is going to save you real money on the dryer side in the long run, and if that 30-minute service claim holds up and their copy says no repair takes more than 30 minutes, then the labor on the back half of this machine's life is going to get a whole lot cheaper for you. Parts is where this actually gets interesting, and Ben hit this too. A Whirlpool gear case runs around $179. A Speed Queen transmission can cost you $599 up to $798. A Whirlpool drive motor is about $189. Speed Queen motors range $200 to $600, depending on which one you need. Out of warranty, the Whirlpool platform's always been a lot cheaper to keep alive. But Ben made a point about Speed Queen that I want to pass along because it's fair to them. Speed Queen prices their parts honestly. A control board's around $150, and idler pulley's about $50, and those parts last. Whirlpool's been notorious for the last 10 or 15 years for control board prices, and I've seen drain pumps from them that cost over $100. That has no business costing that much. So the question I can't answer yet is what Whirlpool's going to charge for a DuraCore rotor, a stator, and that bearing housing. If they price those the way they price their boards, everything good about this machine goes out the window. Ben raised two more things I want on the record because they're the right questions. Does this machine have an independent pressure sensor? And does it have relay-based temperature control? Or is all of that living on one board? Whirlpool's had real trouble with their pressure sensors. Their older commercial dryers used relay systems that ran for 30 years. Nobody knows yet which way they went on this one. That's a teardown question, and it's going on my list. Now, for the other side of it, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I skipped it, this is a Whirlpool. This is the same company whose VMW, or vertical modular washers, gear cases have been failing at 1 to 6 years on machines that were sold for to be 10-year machines. And I pulled them apart in my shop and found that the shafts not pressed all the way in from the factory, same company, and now they want 30 years of your trust. Yale Appliance in Massachusetts publishes its service call numbers every year, and this year it handled 33,190 service calls. On top load washers, Speed Queen came in at 4.6, GE Profile at 3.4, LG at 3.2%, and the average across the whole category was 4.4%. Whirlpool and Maytag aren't in that table at all. That's not a passing grade. That's a blank space. And I'll remind you of something. The Neptune was supposed to be the greatest thing Maytag ever built too. I made a lot of money on those, and that was the brand that put them out of business. Now here's the one thing that Whirlpool's got that Speed Queen doesn't, and Ben's right about this, and it matters more than people think. Maytag's got the best warranty and service network in this country. Speed Queen doesn't have it. GE doesn't have it. If you live in a small town like in central Louisiana and your Speed Queen breaks in year 3, you're going to find out real quick how far away the nearest authorized man is. There's a Whirlpool or Maytag service shop in just about every town in America. That's worth something, and it doesn't show up on any spec sheets. So here's where I stand. This is the most promising top load washer that I've seen on paper since I got into this business, and it's on paper. It's not released. There's no price out of Maytag, and there isn't a service manual or parts list anywhere on earth yet. Nobody should be pre-ordering anything. If you're standing in a store today and need a washer, go buy the Speed Queen. It's proven and it's sitting on the floor. If you can wait until next spring, wait. Let somebody put 1,000 loads through one, and I'll tell you right now, if this machine hits the market and I can get my hands on one, I'm going to buy it, take it apart in this shop, and you're going to see every bolt in it. Not a sponsored one. I bought one. If you want to help, and I mean this, go to Maytag's website, look at their commercial grade page and tell them you want this machine. The one thing these companies understand is people asking for the product. We only get better machines when we buy better machines. And go watch Ben's video. He got there first. He did the legwork at the trade show, and there's not a thing in this world wrong with two people telling you the truth about the same washing machine. Drop your questions in the comments. I've got both spec sheets sitting right here, the washer and the dryer, and if you want a number off of them, I'll go find it for you. And tell me what you want me to check first when I get one out here in the shop. If this was useful to you, hit that like button and subscribe if you hadn't, because when this thing hits the market, I'm going to be the one taking it apart. I'm Chip Harper Knowles, and I am out.